So I'm calling this episode 7 of 6. I published those 6 episodes of the complete restoration of this Range Rover, and I kept those pretty short. They were about 10 minutes each, but because of that, there was a lot of material that didn't get included in those episodes, so I thought I'd do one more. And this one's a little bit longer than the others, but it's going to focus in on some of the details, some of the cosmetic details, mostly on the interior, really. It starts with this headliner that I've never seen an old Range Rover that doesn't have a headliner that's falling down, and that was true here. So I took off the headliner and took it to an upholstery shop and had that replaced. So it looks great now, and also I did a lot of other work on the interior along the console and the veneer, the wood veneer and the carpeting. So let's use this episode to go through all of those interior improvements.
Turn right, then you will arrive at your destination.
So it's time to finish out the interior, and that's all the carpeting and the trim and the sound deadening and material and the dashboard and everything. So I went ahead, had one last chance. I went ahead and put a really heavy coat of black paint, enamel paint on the floor. I literally put it on with a 4-inch house brush out of a can. So very good coating there, ready to go. So no future rust. A little bit of extra thermal barrier because of those catalytic converters, which are right below this part of the floor. These center console parts are plastic, and they're very easy to break if you stress them or bend them too much. So there was one place on this one where I needed to do a little epoxy fiberglass repair, but it was just a crack near where the radio is, but you can't tell now. I did not try to redo the veneer on this piece. It looks pretty good. It's got a few marks on it or some aging, but it's pretty good. So by the time you put the vents in and surround it with all the other material, it looks good, and it wasn't worth the trouble it would take to redo that veneer. So all of us that have these Range Rover Classics are very aware of the problem with the veneer failing on these parts, including other parts on the dash, but this is around the shifter and this is around that windshield, the window switch plate. So I wanted to recover these, and of course I'm going to strip off all the old veneer just with I've got a chisel that I'll just work on it and take off all the old veneer. What's beneath this is like a plywood. It's a laminate material, so it's pretty strong. But I had never done veneer work before, so the hard part is not, well, first off, here is, I bought some walnut burl veneer from a local craft store, like a woodworking shop. It's really pretty. And of course it looks even better, of course, when it's polyurethane or stained. So it's easy to adhere veneer, speaking like I've ever done this, with just to a flat surface. That's not that hard. You just, you know, you get everything clean, and then you put on some suitable wood glue, and then you could just stack boxes up on top of it, or books, or put it in some kind of press. That's not that hard. But what's hard is these pieces have this rounded edge. So the veneer has to go around the edge. And so that's the part I knew would be the trickiest. And I decided to practice. I took a piece of 2x4 and I used a sander and I created a rounded edge so I could mimic that, and to figure out how I was going to lay down the veneer. And it's all about this corner, really, because it's like a carpet, putting carpet in a corner. And so, you know, originally I thought, if this is the veneer, I would try to do some kind of, try to figure out what is the cut. You know, do I do it like this? You know, what is the right cut to make it lay down? And then I couldn't quite figure out exactly what it was. So here's what I decided to do instead is just, with the veneer, I'll just do one cut, a 45-degree cut like that. And then I will adhere the veneer down to the flat surface, and then only do one side like this. So I would do the flat surface and then one side and get it glued down. Once that sat overnight, I would come back, and with a razor blade, I didn't line this up just right, but with a razor blade I would cut off the excess veneer. And so imagine that's gone now. And then the next day I'd come back and I'd lay down, this is just a piece of paper here, so I would lay down this other side, and that looks like crap. But you see what I'm saying. If I did a better job of this example, lay down the other side and glue it, and then come back the next day and cut off the extra amount. And that seemed to be the best solution. So this is what I ended up with. And there's still a tiny, on this example, there's still a tiny little gap right there. My cutting with the razor blade was not perfect, but that can be filled with, some wood putty or even maybe some glue. And then, you could, for little things like that, you can take things like a brown Sharpie and just, dress up a little bit. You'll never notice it when this is all done. So that was my technique. There may be somebody out there that's got a better idea, but that's what I'm going to do here. I'll get all this prepped, and I will do the first glue on the surface. The next day I'll do that cut, and then I'll lay down these two sides and let it glue, let it seal. And that's what this is all going to be about here. I'll have I'll have all these clamps, and I'll be able to do that bend. Another thing about veneer I've learned is it's brittle. If you took a piece of this brand new veneer right here, if I tried to bend this 90 degrees, it would crack. So you can use things like this tamer, which I brushed on with a craft brush, and it allows that veneer to turn that corner and not fail. So that's what I'm going to do, is lay down the flat area, then do two bends. I'll do two bends, let that cure, cut that, and then do the other two bends to cover these. And then it becomes all of the sealing. Now, I originally thought I was going to need to use a wood stain on this burl veneer, but what I found is when I just used polyurethane only, it actually looked really great, just polyurethane. So I did not end up using any stain. I just went straight to that veneer with, this is liquid, this is a spray. I did a little bit of both. So that is, I think that makes for a great look. This is not, I haven't finished covering this, it's a little bit splotchy, but if I kept doing coats, the polyurethane, you do a lot of build-up coats, and then you sand, then you need to sand, like 400, 1000, you need to sand, I forgot what this is, but you need to sand between the coats after they dry to get a finer and finer finish to get to the ultimate look. So that's the plan. I will give it a shot, and I'll take pictures along the way. I didn't get any video of me gluing the veneer on, but I did it exactly like I described, and it worked fine. And it looks like I'm putting these parts in the oven to cook them, and certainly that's not the case. Too much heat will just ruin the veneer and the epoxy or the glue. So all I did was about less than 100 degrees, just some latent heat, just to help cure the polyurethane. It takes forever for the polyurethane, the oil-based polyurethane, to cure or to dry. So anything like this, or the hair dryer, is a good idea to help a little bit, but you have to be careful. Too much heat, too much impatience, and you'll ruin the finish and have to sand it back down and do it again. Turned out really great. I could keep sanding and keep adding more polyurethane and then sanding, and I could treat it like an automotive finish, but this was good and I decided to call it, and it looks fine to me, and it's beautiful. Luckily, the veneer part of that low-range shifter was not bad, because that would be really difficult to do. It's kind of shaped like a bubble, and I don't know if I'd be able to do that with my process. So luckily that shifter handle was good like it was. for the you know, there's that thing under the hood. When you open the hood, it's along the inside of the hood, and it protects, I guess, noise and heat from coming up and probably doing paint damage. So this is that that piece, and it looked terrible before, and what I decided to do, instead of trying to remake it out of some as a craft project, I decided to take the existing one that I have, because it has all these, I don't know if it shows up on camera, all these cutouts, or you know, it's molded. It's a molded situation for what's under the hood. So I decided to take the existing one that I have, and I went to a craft store, a fabric store. This happens to be a place called Joann's Fabric, and I just bought, they have a million different types of material, but I bought some material that's like headliner material. It happens to be stretchy. It's pretty thin, if that shows up. So it's lightweight. So I bought headliner material, and I just cut it a little bit bigger than this shape, and I used high temperature spray adhesive. The stuff I bought, it's outside, but it was called headliner adhesive, but you know, maybe it's the same as like 3M adhesive spray. But I sprayed both sides and laid that down, and then kind of adhered it. So it doesn't look, you know, like some kind of piece of art, but it's certainly effective, and I'm going to put that on tonight. And you know, it's got these things that retain it and hold it in place. So we'll see where that goes tonight. And you know, I laid it over the edge and folded it back. Let's try that again. These trim pieces have undergone some pretty aggressive fading over the years. You know, this is probably the color that it originally was, and just from sun exposure, it's gotten a lot of fading on the top. Here's the other panel for the other side. That's around the spare tire. You can see a lot of fading here compared to this area. The parcel shelf, package shelf, is also the front end. This part's got a lot more fading. So I'm going to try something with some RIT dye. Haven't done this before, but I've got two colors. I'm going to mix them because I think this chocolate color is going to be too dark, and this sand color is probably going to be too light. So I'm going to do a little science experiment, a craft project, and mix those up. I'll also do the cover that goes over the spare tire as well. Okay. I'm using a hair trimmer here to cut down the pilling that existed on the side of this material. It wasn't bad, but this was kind of a neat trick I've learned on some other things, and it's easy to cut down that material and make it look a lot better. It's not really carpet per se, it's something else, and the dye didn't really react to it. Like, it didn't take the dye very much, but it did some. So these look pretty good. I'm happy enough with what they are. Just as a matter of relevance, look at this other one. This is from the donor. This shows how bad they can be. I mean, this guy, I'm going to imagine this owner had a dog that he kept in the back of his Range Rover. I don't know. It just looks so crappy. So anyway, so these are definitely good enough. Oh, the carpeted parts, like this spare tire carrier, this spare tire cover, they turned out even better. I think the carpet, whatever that material is, whether it's nylon or polyester, it seemed to take the dye better. So that was a good turnout. So I'm going to put all this back, and it's going to, oh, and here's the parcel shelf right here. That also is fine. It's going to be good enough. It's not a brand new vehicle, so here we go. So I'm going to put it all back. So that's it, last episode on this Range Rover. It's been a great experience. It really turned out well. I've probably put 100 miles on it since I got it on the road. And I think the only thing left I have to do is to install the windshield wipers. So it's been a really fun experience. I'm going to have fun driving this.